the reality is, if you come in with an unpopular mandate, you propose a wave of legislation, and everything is on the table. There's a bill in Congress now that will take conception to the point of fertilization. So what do you have to do when they know that this is going to be met with protest? This isn't just going to be met with Chuck Schumer going on the Senate floor and saying, oh, we condemn it. People need to protest. People need to be out there. I think in an American context, historically, the most effective are nonviolent direct actions. We see that in North Dakota. We see that going back to the civil rights movement. We see that with climate protesters on Keystone. So what do they have to do? They have to criminalize it. And this was another reason why, it's like, again, this is another reason why a conversation about BDS matters in the United States, regardless of where you are in the Israel-Palestine debate. Regardless of whether you support two states or one state bilateral democracy, or you're more or less critical, when you move to criminalize BDS, which is a nonviolent movement, you can disagree with it, you can hate its aims, blah, 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 but it is a nonviolent movement that is saying we need to exercise economic and cultural pressure to change a policy. That was the harbinger of what we're about to see here, because there's going to be a lot of protests, and protests are very effective. This was unfortunate. This was Tom Perez. I prefer Keith Ellison in his as next chairman of the DNC, although frankly I think, I'm not black or white about these things. Tom Perez has a very good record in his position at Justice Department. He's a smart guy. I don't care that he supported Hillary Clinton, Department of Labor, excuse me, and Justice before. I believe he's at Justice before he's at Department of Labor. I don't care, that he was a surrogate for Hillary Clinton. And I did notice at the last DNC forum, Tom Perez and several other candidates actually did condemn Haim Sabin for his ludicrous attacks on Keith Ellison, calling Ellison an anti-Semite. But this is Zaid Jilani asking Tom Perez after a DNC forum about his views on BDS, and the response speaks for itself.
Hi, Zaid Jilani. I saw your question about the BDS movement. It's really interesting. That's a debate a lot of Democrats are having.
Oh, is that right?
A lot of people across the country are having. It's interesting. People are quick to condemn the BDS movement, but there's also been sort of really strong actions against human rights by Israel. For example, 1,600 Palestinians lost their homes last year to home demolitions.
I understand
do you
it's
condemn the home
complicated
demolitions
issue.
just like you would condemn BDS?
It's that type of stuff.
Secretary, would you condemn the home demolitions by Benjamin Netanyahu? Secretary, do you also condemn the expansion of settlements? Secretary Perez, do you feel like you can represent Arab Americans who are involved in the DNC?
So that's not going to work. He could say I don't support BDS because it specifically singles out Israel or whatever. But if you can't condemn home demolitions, this is another issue that is going to be a major foreign policy dividing line between a progressive multicultural base of the Democratic Party and the leadership, and also incidentally inside Jewish America. Most American Jews don't have time for this, particularly generationally. And John Kerry gave a very powerful speech where he said it's going to become a one-state reality, and it's not going to be a democracy. It's going to be an apartheid-type situation. Well, the only problem with that speech is that he's describing a present, not a future. That's what it's been for 50 years, and there's going to need to be a change inside democratic politics. It doesn't work. And, just really briefly, I'll get to the phones, but Israel has approved 566 new homes in East Jerusalem settlements. The rules of the game have changed with Donald Trump. the city's mayor declared after approving the homes. This is from a report from DW, which is a German news site. Benjamin Netanyahu had delayed a vote on the homes until the end of Barack Obama's presidency. Israeli authorities have approved building permits for 566 new homes in East Jerusalem settlement, city officials announced on Sunday. So, this is another area where if the Democratic sort of quote-unquote establishment, where are they going to maneuver? Because the base of the party and millennials are moving towards a deep discomfort with, frankly, racism, which you can't have settlement expansion policies without a pretty comfortable acceptance of racism and occupation. That's reality. Then you have a Democratic mainstream, which is finally, because of the unbelievable intransigence of Netanyahu and his government, have at least in the sort of Kerry Obama orbit moved towards some sort of gentle criticism of the Israeli far right and maybe some alignment with the Israeli center, although that doesn't really exist right now. And now Trump is going to move it a whole other sort of swing of the pendulum to the extreme right. There isn't going to be room for, not at the bare minimum, condemning flagrant violations of Palestinian human rights. It's simply untenable.
Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Subscribe.